Hello, everybody. Welcome to day 4 of our Rockstar Virtual Summit. Today we have Angie Lopez. Now, Angie and I met through the Susie Carter squad, through that tribe. She is just an amazing human being. She has a law background. She's actually very, very multifaceted. I mean, she's got a really strong sense of business, a really strong sense of law, and just a wonderful human being altogether. So with that, Angie, I'm going to turn it over to you, and we really are excited about what you have to teach us today.
Well, I am excited. Thank you so much, Jen. You are just wonderful. When I met you, we just connected immediately, and I got to meet you, and you just know a lot of my personal stuff too, which makes it a lot easier to just talk to you. So yeah, you're right. I am an attorney. I primarily focus in family law. I have a business background as well. I've gone through multiple business ventures throughout the years, from creating a software company to coaching business owners on how to take their business to the next level in every single area. So yeah, that's me. That's the surface. As a woman, I have gone through heartbreaks, mental illness, you name it. I mean, everything in between, the heartbreaks, the tears, the happy moments, everything. I'm also a mom, and that's probably been the biggest blessing in my journey. And I just love being a mom as well. I'm a single mom. I don't shy away from saying that. And it's been an incredible journey there. And I just love people. I genuinely do. And this is why I feel like we should all be more connected to each other. I love people's stories. I am a storyteller of some sort. And I just love to hear stories about people going through breakups. And as a family law attorney, I get to connect with women that are going through breakups and are going through divorce and are going through the challenges of child custody. But the biggest thing I want to talk about today is what we don't really talk about as a nation, which is domestic violence. We're business owners, we're wives, we're daughters. I want to know what goes on behind closed doors, especially during pandemics. And this pandemic really brought out the worst out of people. It also brought out the best of people, but it also brought out the very worst of people. I'm talking 1 in every 4 women has gone through some sort of domestic violence. And that applies to same-sex marriage, that applies to boyfriend-girlfriend relationships, that even applies to mother-in-laws. I mean, if you live with in-laws or you have some sort of relationship with in-laws, domestic violence applies to all of that. And it just blows my mind that we don't talk about it enough. So, as business owners, let's have these conversations. Let's have the conversation around what it's like to run a successful business, but also run a shitty household where you sometimes don't even want to go back to. So, I want to invite you to ask me questions about it.
Oh, Ginger, sounds off.
I was on mute, sorry. So you want us to ask you questions specifically about domestic violence, or just, share our stories about our own personal stuff? Because I'm down with sharing some stuff.
I'm a storyteller. I want you to share your stories, and then I'll share mine at the end.
So it is interesting how many of us have some kind of trauma related around domestic violence. I would say for myself, I have also endured some stuff, but fortunately mine was short and not that severe. So I'm grateful to the fact that I come from a very happy family, and we did not see that kind of thing in our home. So when I moved out to California, I had been dating a guy that lived in the San Francisco Bay Area, and I was in Florida, and I really wanted to come out to California and be with him. So I did. And then I didn't know at the time that he was bipolar and he was prone to striking out and doing some really horrible things. And I realized, oh shit, I'm out here by myself and I'm with this guy. And I felt at age 22 that if I told anybody in my family what was going on, then I would get sent home and have to go back to Florida. But that wasn't what I wanted to do. I wanted to stay in California, but I had to very quickly figure out ways to get myself out of that situation. And I was very lucky that I was able to be outside of that within a few months. But it was still an interesting journey and a shocker. And I remembered feeling shame around it. Like, I was very much a feminist in college, and some of my friends joked that I was a feminazi. And I was very, don't tell me I can't do something, blah, blah, blah. But yeah, it really has shaped me. And so, and then sometimes there's just the different types of abuse that's not necessarily physical, but very mental.
Yeah.
And that's what I saw in my first marriage. Very, just that death by 1,000 cuts, that
Yeah.
kind of thing. So we said earlier before we hit the record button that, we become the people that we are because we're shaped because of our life experiences. And for me personally, I wouldn't change anything in my past because I wouldn't be where I am today, right? And sometimes the challenges bring us to the great levels and perspective that we are now. But I will say this, I don't tolerate crap anymore. So there's my lesson. And I have a wonderful husband. My beautiful Renee, who's on this call, has never raised his voice to me. He's never made me cry. He's amazing, and I won the lottery of love. So there's my story.
I love it. I really love it. Now, I love to hear these stories. And the reason why I want to share this story is because, as I was telling Jennifer, as an attorney, it's really embarrassing to admit that you're going through some sort of domestic violence. And, that's my story. As an attorney, I married the wrong guy who I thought was going to be my better half for the rest of my life. Unfortunately, that didn't happen. Now, because I am a professional, I didn't want to recognize and admit to myself that this was the wrong person for me, let alone that I was being abused. As an attorney, I ended up in the hospital because he hurt me to the point where I was crippled for about a month. Now, what did I do when that happened? Well, I cried. I cried like a baby, and I was angry with myself. I was angry with him, of course. But more than anything, something just clicked inside of me. As an attorney, I had been going through the motions and I was building businesses left and right, but I didn't have a set identity yet. And I guess that's the gist of what I want to talk about today, which is identity. Your identity is who you are as a person, but also the set of circumstances that have led to where you are now. Had I not gone through that horrific experience, which I do not wish upon anyone, I would not have been who I am now, which is an empath. I have built so much empathy for women, children, and even men who go through abuse, who are going through some sort of mental illness, who are going through trauma, who wake up in the middle of the night screaming because they yet had another nightmare. My identity was built in that hospital room the day that my ex-husband sent me to the hospital because he hurt me. My identity and who I am as a business owner, who I am as a human being, was built that night. And because of that, I was able to pivot my entire career. And I now focus on helping primarily women and children who are survivors of domestic violence. So both of my law offices revolve around that, creating a safe environment for for those who have gone through some sort of domestic violence abuse, where they can come and feel safe to, one, talk about what's going on, but also have a person, which is me, protect their rights, be the voice for them. When I didn't have a voice, I get to be a voice for someone else now. And that is the gist of the identity behind my business now. And I believe that is what makes it successful. Because if you lack identity in your business, no one will be able to connect with your brand. No one will be able to connect with you as a person. And I have heard business owners constantly tell me, I just don't attract the right crowd, or I just don't attract the clients that I want. My business is not growing. Why is it not growing? If you're not growing as a human being yourself, don't expect to attract anything good into your business. So identity is key. It is very, and let me tell you, you might be a person out there looking for that identity because you don't even know where the hell to start. I'm telling you, look inward. We always look outward. Look inward. We have it inside of us. It is our experiences, our very life story. If you have gone through anxiety, make that, and just try for just a week. Try to make that your story for your business that week. At least one person will be able to connect with you because A, we have a pandemic going on still. I can't stress this enough. Mental illness is out there, and more likely than not, your clients will be suffering through it silently. But if you voice it and they can say, aha, this company is talking about not just a secular need that I have, but it's also talking about some mental illness that I'm secretly suffering with, you will gain their trust like that. So through heartbreaks, through a mental illness, you can find your very own business identity to just resonate with the rest of the world. And like a ripple effect, you will attract the right tribe to your business.
Yeah. Angie, you bring up a really, really good point. A lot of our clients are in the auto repair world and the construction world. And when you go to a professional to fix something, you have a broken thing, but then that broken thing, whether it be a car or a roof or a toilet, it affects everything, right? And so it's like when something in the system is not working properly, it affects the entire body, right? And so yes, we have a client in Tennessee. Their motto is, we fix everything except a broken heart, because they recognize that when people are coming in to get their car repaired, they're also sharing what's going on in their world. And a lot of times they're facing some challenges, especially during the pandemic.
Right. And, there's always this saying, beauty attracts beauty, right? Well, that's not it. Brokenness attracts brokenness. And it amazes me how little people want to admit when they're broken, right? Everyone wants to follow you when you're up there, when you live in this phenomenal life on the surface. But when you're broken, why are we not talking about these things? Well, let me tell you, my brokenness attracted my right tribe. My brokenness attracted the right business deals. My brokenness attracted the right people who also needed help, and I was able to connect with them. So my brokenness, my heartaches, every single failure that I've had, it has led to the very best of my life. So I embrace brokenness. I embrace the feeling of not having your shit together, because it is in those moments when you hit rock bottom that you have your aha moments. And those aha moments will dictate where your business takes off and who you become for the rest of your life, the type of human being that you will become. Karen, you have a question.
There, I unmute. I can do this. Sorry. Some of us are chatting today, apparently. Actually, Angie, I wanted to add something. You were talking about incredible stories of resilience, of, you know, people who are being persecuted. And I just listened to the most fantastic audiobook. And I wanted to share this with people. And I encourage you to get the audiobook because the author reads it and she's fabulous. And it's The Woman They Could Not Silence. And it is a fantastic story about a woman who was incarcerated in a mental institution by her husband in the 1850s, only to discover that a huge number of other women in that institution were also incarcerated, and none of them were crazy at all. They were speaking out against their husbands, and that was the thing you did. You could just have people locked up. I don't like what you're saying, so I'm going to lock you up. And the perseverance that this woman turned to was just, she went and she changed the laws. She made it so you could not just lock women up. And then she went after, you know, how you treat insane people. And then she went after and she went after and she went after. And she's the first woman who changed the laws that would allow women to own property and own their own children, not their husbands. And so through this pain and agony, you know, a lot of great things can come, but these are the people we need to be supporting. And ACT is exactly what you're doing, Angie, is picking people up, right? That we really need to support. But this is absolutely, it's a fabulously written book. I highly recommend it, but it will scare the crap out of you.
Thank you, Karen. If you can somehow write the title of the book and the writer in the chat box, I would appreciate it. Thank you.
So great.
I love stories of resilience. I really do. And that leads on to the next topic that I want to talk about, which is taking care of yourselves. You know, I've talked about brokenness and being there for others and picking yourself up, dusting yourself off the ground, building a business out of ashes, building a business out of brokenness. But never forget to also take care of yourself. And the reason why it's so important to take care of yourselves is because you cannot give what you don't have. For me, it has been therapy. I mean, I have been to countless sessions of therapy. Countless, right? And it's not just from my adulthood, but you know, childhood traumas that I had been carrying. Mental health, it's crucial. You cannot, and I can't stress this enough, you cannot succeed in your business if you're not taking care of your mental health. If you're not taking care of your mental health, it will show. You will look burned out, and your clients will be able to tell you're burned out. I mean, and I personally, for example, as an attorney, if I have a client, if I'm the client and my attorney looks burned out, I'm not going to want him or her to take my case because they just look burned out. Two, if you are burned out, if your mental health is struggling, it will not get better without you intervening. Sometimes we put that at the back of our minds and we don't really do anything about it. Well, it's not one of those things that will take care of itself. It's one of those things that the more you ignore it, the more it will pester your life. And when it pesters, it comes to the point where that's why we have mental breakdowns. So instead of allowing ourselves to have mental breakdowns, we need to do something about it to take care of it. And it could be as simple as starting a new routine, going for a walk every week, being around loved ones, talking about it. I can't stress enough how talk therapy does wonders for us. And so we need to start taking care of our mental health in order for our businesses to be successful. We need to start taking care of our mental health for our identity to be fully defined and attract the right tribe. Yes, Jen, talk therapy does work wonders for us. It really does. And even if it's just through a virtual Zoom meeting with a therapist, it will work wonders. Yes, when you take care of your mental health, you can run your business with so much more strength. Yes, yes, Jen, good stuff. Yes, I love it. I love it. Um, Jen, earlier, you talked about how you would not have changed your trauma because it made you who you are. I want to talk a little bit about that. As human beings, when given a choice, we look back into our history, right? Our story. And it's easy for us to become runaways. And what I mean runaways is we become runaways from our past. Now, we should not run away from experiences we've had, trauma that we've had. Because if we run away and do not accept it into who we are now, we will run away from our past for the rest of our lives. And it'll come to a point where it bites us back somewhere, somehow. We need to come to a point of acceptance. Did I suffer abuse as a child? Yes, I very much did. Am I going to keep running away from talking about it? Absolutely not. I kid you not, every week in my office, in one of my offices, I get at least one child who has gone through some sort of sexual or physical abuse. Now, if I lived a life where I ignored that from happening to me, I will not be able to connect with these children.
Yeah.
I am my past, present, and future. And we don't talk about these things often. I am my past, my present, and my future. It is because of what happened before that I am who I am now. It is because of that little child, little Angie at 5 years old getting abused, that I became this strong woman that I am now, who cares about social justice, who cares about these children, who cares about these women getting abused. It is because of that that I found my voice. It is my voice. My voice was found when I accepted what happened to me, and I wouldn't change a thing. And I've had people say, "Are you crazy? How could you not have changed getting abused as a small child?" Well, I wouldn't. I just wouldn't. Because then who would I be now? Would I just be some entitled attorney who doesn't care about others? Probably. But because I accepted what I went through, I get to now become the voice for others. And then Renee has a question. It says, are there signs of mental health issues? Is it possible for someone to not even recognize one has some type of mental health issues? Great question. In short, yes. And let me explain. Depression, for example. We all feel sad sometimes. That is normal. We are human beings. What is not normal is to last 2 weeks consecutively feeling down about ourselves, having little to no pleasure in doing things that we otherwise used to find pleasure in doing, especially if there's not anything negative going on in your lives. I mean, if you have a death of a loved one, yes, it's understandable for you to be sad a month, 2 months, however long it takes you to grieve. However, if there is no particular circumstance, then it is abnormal to feel that way. And that is the moment you should really consider consulting with a mental health professional.
Mm.
Check in with yourself. Nobody knows you as much as you know you. For example, I've been feeling down these past 2 weeks. I mean, I'm talking about crying spells. I'm talking about, just feeling overwhelmed with the pressures of the world, right? And I had to check in with myself yesterday and say, well, Angie, what is going on with you? Am I burned out? No, not really. I take time to rest here and there. So it's not work related. Perhaps it's dealing with all these stories of women and children getting abused. Maybe. But no, I think sometimes we just really need a reset button in our mental health, and that's fine. Sometimes we feel sad, and it's completely normal. And then Jen's asking, what can we do in the workplace to mentor our employees who are going through rough times? Number two, prevent a much bigger tragedy like workplace shootings. Any ideas that would be helpful? Jen, I love this question. So let's tackle the first one. If we, so as a business owner, right, if I had employees, I would absolutely set in place a program where my employees can use resources, work provided resources for their mental health. For example, maybe fund an online therapy group, maybe give away mental health days fully paid, help my employees feel like I care about their mental health. I have seen companies who have mental health rooms, and these are just rooms with absolutely no computers or electronics and have Zen music playing, and it's just a safe place, and they can go in there, maybe read a positive book, just have this in the workplace. Now, I know a lot of our workplaces are transitioning to remote, and then we can also establish parameters to support our employees in the areas of mental health. Once again, have discussions, have therapy groups, provide hotlines. The National Suicide Prevention Hotline, it's there. We don't really talk about it, but every employer should have it as a resource for their employees and should talk about it. It should be in the handbooks. If you're feeling overwhelmed and you feel sad, suicidal, these are resources for you that, So put packets together for your employees. So when things like these do come up, you're prepared. Now, the second question is, how can we prevent much bigger tragedies like workplace shootings? As an attorney, of course I have my political agendas. Of course I have my ideas when it comes to legalization of guns, and I'm not going to go into that today. What I am going to go into is this. People go batshit crazy at work. They really do. Why? Because we're not talking about mental illness. We're not talking about the mental health. It's not a problem with the guns. It's a problem with people. Guns don't shoot people. People shoot people with guns. Now, in the workplace, I believe that just like at home, again, just like there's domestic violence at home because you're there with those people every day. And if you're already carrying some sort of delusional ideas or some sort of mental illness, well, you're going to take it out on your family members. Same thing happens in the workplace. I believe the workplace, especially if you're there 8 hours plus a day, the people around you become sort of like your family. So you're going to get on each other's nerves. And if you don't know how to deal with conflict, you're going to take it out in a violent way, just like you do in your households. Now, one of the things that workplaces can do is talk. I mean, just talk about it. Have better conflict resolution guidelines in place. I'm also a mediator, and I have done mediations for workplaces. I believe in conflict dispute resolution. I believe that talk is the best way to come about. Now, we do not have that in place because let's who are we kidding? Most workplaces only care about numbers. They don't care about the people. They care about numbers. And so when we only care about numbers, why will it surprise us that if that's all we care about, we create a robotic environment where people will go indeed batshit crazy? Because we were not created to be overworked. We were created to enjoy life and to learn how to resolve disputes amongst each other in a verbal way. That is why we're verbal, right? The only animals in the kingdom who speak, but we seldom do it. Why? Because of the workplace culture that tells you it's all about the numbers. Um, Karen, my kids' school has this fabulous wellness room, 12-inch screen where we catch the waves, beanbag chairs, even beads. I love that. As a mom,
It
I
was
have.
great, Angie. I went in there on a tour and it was like, can I come in here for lunch? You like me? Because this is like the best place to be. So, but I'd never seen anything like that in a middle school. So I was thrilled that they were, and of course there's counselors there too, but just the whole atmosphere. You walk in and it's like, ah, it feels so good.
Yeah, I love it. And, schools, it's another classic example. Countless of school shootings that we see every year around the country. And as a mom, it scares the shit out of me. It really, really does. I mean, this is somebody's angel baby, 10, 11, 12 years old, shooting up a school. Why? Well, I have a theory for something as well. What are these children looking at home? What is their home environment like? Why is nobody intervening? They're acting out in school because of their home environment. So it all starts with the home. If you are not providing safe environments for children, they will create chaotic environments for others because they will act out on what they see at home. And it's a sad, sad reality. I would say that majority of these school shootings that have happened throughout our country in the past, even just in the past 10 years, these are children who were not monitored at home. They could have been in a home with mom and dad, but that does not equate to a loving home environment. And what we need to do as a nation is press on family values a lot more. If we have strong family values and if we're raising children to know how to control their emotions, they will not be acting out as much as they do out there. Self-regulation is very, it's not spoken about enough. Self-regulation should be huge. We have all these shootings, we have all these workplace shootings, we have all these domestic violence cases. There's no self-regulation anymore. Now, self-regulation, it's a concept about managing my own emotions, managing my mental health, because as an adult, as a human being, it is my responsibility to learn how to manage it because nobody else has control of it. So self-regulation, it needs to be huge and it has to be spoken about more often than we currently do, especially at schools, especially at the workplace, especially at home. Chris says, seems like we could do a better job of promoting self-care for depression by fostering an atmosphere of care. You are more likely to see someone's strain and potential breakpoint, the kind that leads to a breakdown, by getting involved and offering support. Workplace killers seldom kill people who are kind to them. That is really true. I agree through and through.
Yeah.
Kindness leads to kindness. I have always believed that. You And even if it doesn't, right? I have been kind to people who have not been kind to me in return. But more often than not, kindness does lead to kindness. I mean, you have people at the workplace who create these little cliques, right? And then exclude others, especially the introverts. Well, what is this, high school, right? I mean, I haven't had. I've been a business owner for over 10 years, so I haven't had your traditional workplace, right? I've been the boss, I guess, for the past, I'm gonna say 12 years. However, when I did work, the last place I worked in a place, the culture was just nasty. It was, it was people forming their cliques, their groups, and excluding others. Of course, I'm the life of the party and I'm the bubbly personality one, right? So I was part of these cliques, but I always tried to make sure that everyone would be included in gatherings, social gatherings, anything, any dinners that we had. Why? Because it's not a high school, right? We are adults now. And you're right, we need to foster a place where we discuss mental health. And if we see someone going through an off day, we should not shy away from asking what's wrong because that could be that person's last day on earth.
You know, you bring up a really good point. It's a lot of safety in the workplace and feeling safe to be vulnerable and share what's going on is truly a company culture thing, right? Like, for example, at Rockstar Marketing, our whole thing is to support and lift each other up. Someone can always ask a fellow squad member for help, and we're going to, you know, jump in and help out where we can and lift each other up. And it really creates a feel good around everybody, knowing that everyone's got their backs, right? What kind of, I mean, gosh, this is such a huge topic, but like when you're seeing people in your business, obviously you're passionate about helping people with domestic violence. How are you helping them heal? How are you helping them find ways? Because it's not an overnight thing. Like, okay, congratulations, you're out of the bad, out of the bad situation, whether that be a toxic work environment or a horrible relationship, whether it be familial or bullying, whatever. How do you guide them toward that healing process so they can be more productive and happier?
That's a great question, Jen. So, for example, for me, I take care of their legal issues, right? When it comes to like their restraining order, their divorce, their child custody case. Yes, that's my genius, right? I can't say my genius is mental health entirely because I am not a therapist. However, my other creative genius is putting together resources for people. So even if you are not a medical professional, you have a brain and you have research techniques, you can put together resources for these people. So for me, for example, I have, you know, a new family, a woman and her children. They have just gone through some sort of domestic violence episode, and I am taking care of their restraining order. I'm taking care of getting them somewhere safe. Well, I also have an entire, and I mean like it's a beautiful thing. I have partnered with other nonprofit organizations who have the resources that I want to get these women into. For example, I partner with housing advocacy groups, and they take care of their housing issues because a lot of the times these women are homeless now, right? They had to flee their abusive environment, so they're homeless now. So I reach out to my partners and they put together a packet for them to have a safe place to go, whether it be a homeless shelter or, a low income place. I have that. Mental illness. So I also have NAMI that I partner with. So NAMI, it's in my same building and I refer clients to them left and right. One of my primary goals is for this family to not only be in a safe place physically, but emotionally as well. So I make sure that they receive the correct resources when it comes to family therapy, individual therapy. So I follow up with them, and I love the system that I have in place. That not only do I calendar or court dates, etc., but I also calendar times to check in with them when it comes to how they're doing mentally and how they're doing emotionally. And last but not least, a lot of these women they also don't work and they used to depend financially on the man they were with. But what I do is I get them into the right programs where they can learn a new set of skills and they get to find employment once they graduate from that program. So, and also the county has an array amount of resources out there, ranging from food stamps to some type of financial help while they get situated back in life. And so I put together an entire packet for them, but I don't do it alone. I make sure that I have partners, because my partners are the ones who are actually going to get the resources that they need. But I am that first point of contact, and it is my responsibility that they get in touch with all these other organizations, so that when I check in with them by month 3, they are in a much better place than when I originally found them.
Okay.
Let's see. Are there any other questions in the box? Karen, you look like you need to ask me a question.
Oh,
I guess I think about, I've spent a lot of time in corporate America, right, with huge companies. And, I worked for GE. When I hired on, there was 400,000 employees. They're like their own city.
Yeah.
But a lot of these guys are working, small. We're talking a handful of people, right? A dozen, right? And lots of different kinds of clients and stuff. And so I'm wondering, what are some of the things that they can do uh, to spot issues and to encourage people to seek help, without it feeling like, what if the boss says you ought to go see a shrink? You don't want to add any more pain to the person's already existing pain, right? So if somebody really senses there's something going on that maybe they don't need to fix, right, and they don't need their hands on it, but they realize this person's really needing help, what can you do as a small business owner, to suggest something without intimidating people? Maybe that's the right word.
Great. That's a great question, Karen. And this is when, as a business owner or as a supervisor, your story comes into play. And what I mean by that is this. If I just approach my employees and I tell them, hey, you look like you need to go see a shrink, yeah, it's going to intimidate them. Contrast to this. Guess what, you guys? I want to share a story with you guys. I have been dealing with anxiety and depression on and off for the past 10 years. This X, Y, and Z is what has helped me in the past become better at knowing how to take care of my mental health. Whether you're going through that or not, I don't want to press into your business. If you want to talk to me about it at the conclusion of our conversation and you want to talk about it in private, I'd be more than happy to listen to you and share with you resources. Now, when you turn your story into their story, it changes something like that. Again, it's the world of empathy. It's the world of knowing your identity as the business owner and sharing that with your company. And that creates your company culture. You want to create a culture within your company that talks about these hard subjects. They're not really hard at all. They're just so much stigma around them still. But when you break the ice of the stigma behind it by becoming a human being who's also going or has gone through similar experiences, then it makes them open up and want to seek help for themselves.
I guess, Angie, what if you don't have a story? It's not your own story. You haven't faced these issues, which means you don't understand them as well either. How do you do that? Maybe you could use other people's stories. That was what I was thinking is, or, I had a niece or my grandmother, or, right, it's something close so that they can get that. But I don't know how effective that is.
Karen, I think that as human beings, we are storytellers by nature and we love stories. Whether it be, for example, Karen, if you shared right now with me the story of your niece, and if she is going through some sort of mental illness, I'm still going to be very receptive to that story because it's a story nevertheless. It might not be your story per se, but you somehow suffered through it as a result of it. Or even if it's just day-to-day struggles that we have. You might not be going through some mental illness, but you're a human being. More than likely, you have had your off days. And your off days might not be enough to constitute some sort of mental disorder, but they're off days anyways. So I think when we just position ourselves as human beings who go through struggles, which we all do, we all have struggles, right? Whether you're taking medication or not, we're going through struggles. Share those struggles with your company and create a positive culture where those struggles are spoken about and not shy away from, because ultimately that's what makes your company human, right? Your company's not robotic. It's owned by a human being. And when you create a culture like that, it invites more conversations around these topics.
Love that. You know, the other one I just thought of, right? Simone Biles, you know, stepped
Mhm.
out of the friggin' Olympics because she said, my head is not on the game. It's not in, and I could kill myself, right? I worked with a bunch of people for years who, you know, if their head's not in the game, they could kill not just themselves, but other people too, right? So maybe that's also a good example to say that this is a great example of what we should be seeing in the workplace. And I've seen several articles already at what she stepped out, what, 3 days ago, about her bravery. I that might be a good one you could hold people up to, because she said, no, I got to protect my own body. And then she stepped back in and picked up a bronze. You know, that's pretty swift. That woman has balls. I'm sorry, but she does.
Chris says, what resources do you share with clients about embracing their conflict and approaching angry energy? Do you see a way small businesses can utilize these systems within their own business to improve morale? The easiest way to answer this is this. We have the internet at our disposal. Contrast that to 25 years ago. I mean, you had to go to the library to even learn about mental illness. Now, you can just Google. And there are countless of organizations out there who cater to workplace mental health. And so resources, we don't perish because of a lack of resources. We perish because of a lack of conversations nowadays. So resources are there, and most of these resources, especially for mental health, are free of cost. So for small companies, small businesses, whether it be an auto repair shop, who probably does not have sufficient funds to hire a full-time therapist to be at in the office every day, there are still countless of resources out there for their employees to be able to utilize. Also, check in if you are an employer who offers some sort of medical insurance. Check in with your insurance carrier. They might have some mental health resources available free of cost. Why? Because it's a well-known fact that if your mental health is decaying, physically you're going to feel it. So it's going to cost the insurance company a lot more money to be paying for your prescription drugs or constant visits to the ER, right? Most of the ER visits have to do with panic attacks. People feeling like they're going to have a heart attack, but it's in fact a panic attack. Now it's costing thousands of dollars, the insurance companies, to pay off these medical costs when it could have been resolved by just sending these people to talk about what's plaguing their mind. So, like I said, there's countless of resources out there. You just need to. One of them is NAMI. So it's NAMI. So NAMI is a mental health alliance. It's actually it's national and it's free of cost. And you can reach out to them and they'll send you resources for your employees, or even just for yourself. And like I said, Google. The internet is just an array of resources that at our disposal that we underutilize. We underutilize. And I can't stress this enough. Mental health days. They're rather simple, but we need them. Mental health days are there so that we can just recharge. And, even if it's just to go take a walk by the beach.
Yeah.
They're there.
You know, Angie, you bring up a really good point, and also Chris, your question about what resources to embrace that energy. Actually, the very first 2 in-person Rockstar Summits that we did here in Monterey in January of 2018 and 2019, we had a workshop called Using Comedy Improvisation for Customer Service. And what we did was we had a comedy improv class, and we had various people like coming up with situations in the workplace. And the training that we got was the answer that you give is yes and. So in comedy improvisation, to support the players on the stage with you, you say yes and so you are hearing them and then you contribute to it. So if someone comes in really hot saying, Tom, I love you, man, but Fur and Otto did something really bad to my car and I'm angry, you can say, yes, Jen, we screwed up and we're going to do what we can to assist you because we love you that much. Right, Tom? But
Or
no, it was
yes,
really
and
cool.
the
What was
reason the
that,
car
Chris?
got screwed up was we didn't, or the answer could be in that situation, yes, and the reason we screwed up was we didn't know enough about the situation. You left out some details, and if we could just have a better communication with you, we could probably do better for your car. So we don't have to necessarily accept the a bad pronouncement against us to do it. We just have to be willing to find an answer for them.
Yes, exactly, exactly. And Rosemary, who's on here, she's not on camera, but she's on here. She's a trial attorney. Talk about dealing with heated, angry energy, right? I'm sure Rosemary has her situations where she has to quell some interesting stuff, short of putting people in handcuffs. But it's true. Every single person has stressors, and it is really interesting when you look at a situation and it's like it can be deflected, right? And you're absolutely right, Angie. Talking through the problem and trying to see things from their perspective is going to help bridge that gap. And what is it? Extend an olive branch versus an arrow, right? So this is I'm so glad that you're doing this talk, because you're right. We don't talk about it enough. We all want to have fun. We all want to go for a beer at the end of the day. We want to focus on the good, but if we keep sweeping things underneath the rug, that mothball of angst is going to get bigger and bigger and bigger. So you're right. As soon as things start showing up in the workplace, or showing up in the home or in the school, whatever the situation, if you can address it head on and not deflect, but just like, hey, I see that something happened. How can we resolve it? Rosemary, I love it that you're here, Miss Trial Attorney. I got all these attorneys on this call. How do you deflect some negative energy, some angry energy when you're in the courtroom or dealing with a criminal case?
I kind of go, I have to be smooth. I can't like antagonize and argue. I mean, I can, but it doesn't look, so good. I just try to, I guess, lighten. I learn just one time, I'll tell you, I was getting ready for trial with like the toughest DA stuff shirt. I had all my evidence. He wasn't going to settle, it was thing. And a comical thing happened was my niece, I had been babysitting, and she asked me if she could use to write on something. And I thought she was pointing to a legal pad. But anyway, so I pulled out my evidence to show this guy, this attorney, he wasn't willing to talk right before we're getting ready for trial. And I pulled out this file, and it had smiley faces and rainbows and all this. And I was just so embarrassed, but he deflated and we settled the case. So he became real. So I think of that as the extreme. So I try to do something like that to deflate people like that. And it's a hard thing, but that was something I lucked into. But I try to use a little bit of humor, but not be like against somebody. So I think humor is my thing. So
yeah, and you are quite funny. Oh my gosh, guys, I've known Rosemary for decades, and this woman is hilarious. So yeah, when she brings levity to the situation, everyone feels better. Yeah.
mm-hmm.
Cool. Thanks for sharing it. Anybody else want to share some stories about what's going on in their workplace? Oh, Chris.
Well, not in this work story, but about 30 years ago, I went to work for a company. I'd always had a habit of working for 6 months and then either quitting or being fired. And I saw this place that would teach me computers, and I thought that's something I want to do. So I wound working up for a copy company, which wound up being Kinko's the Copy Center. I don't know if you guys remember Kinko's, but they were founded by a real hippie named Paul Orfala, and Paul had all these great ideas in place. And one of the best things he did was, if you're ever having an argument with somebody, or if an argument starts and voices start raising, you're supposed to whip out this thing called commitments to communication. And it's sort of like a rule book for how to play in the sandbox with each other. And so we would have to have this to talk while holding this sheet of paper and talking to each other. So we have to make sure that we weren't violating the rules with each other and that we were kind of getting on. And it really actually helped. The only time it didn't help was when somebody just said no, threw it in the paper. but in my 20s, I'd been kind of picked on in school as a kid, so I was starting to kind of come into my own when I was getting a little bit aggressive, and it helped me kind of calm that down when I got in a fight. Instead of feeling like this isn't every person who's ever picked on you, this is just one person who disagrees with you. Relax and move on.
Good point. Good point. Another natural deflector is Renee. Everyone loves Renee, and Renee never gets upset about anything. I feel like I married the guru who sits on the mountain, who's like the calm, wise one. And I'm always sitting at Renee's feet like, Renee, darling, tell me how you always are so chill. See?
Okay, we all want to know that answer.
Yeah, right.
I don't know that I have an answer, but I definitely have been in workplaces. I should say one workplace where there has been people who are like screaming and yelling, and that's not healthy, of course. So yeah, we've all experienced it to some degree.
Yeah. By the way, for those of you who don't know, Tom's busy, but this is my hubby, Renee. He's just in the other room. Anyway, Angie, this is really, really a great conversation. Okay, how do we get a hold of you? So let's put it in the chat. How do we get a hold of this fabulous attorney who specializes in domestic violence, family law? And again, Rosemary, I know that you got on late, but what's really fascinating is that Angie had gone through some stuff herself, and it really helped her define how she wanted to take her practice. And so now she's helping.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I did get on. I did hear that from one of my computers. Yes, I was.
That is really, really awesome stuff. I mean, again, nobody
I
wants
love
to
it.
tag you, right? In fact, I love Tom so much because I got to know him in South Carolina. And I heard the best joke from Tom and Spider. So Tom, I hope you don't mind. I'm going to share this joke, and it doesn't have anything to do with the violence, but it is kind of funny, and it just makes me love a foreign auto even more. So we were talking about BMWs because, of course, these are all BMW specialists. And I didn't know the difference between the Range Rovers and the BMWs SUVs because I had driven the, what was it, Tom? The X5? Was it the X5 that we did the off-roading on? Yeah. And I was like, okay, guys, so what's the difference between the Range Rover? Which one's better, the BMW or the Range Rover? And I think it was you, or I think it was Spider, who said, you know, the Range Rover is really good because it has all of the entertainment stuff inside there. You can watch your movie and you can do all that, and you can watch it while the tow truck is coming to pick up that Range Rover for you.
I love it.
I thought that was hilarious. So I'm sure that, he's used that humor wisely to deflect when you got some angry people coming in with their car that's not running, right, Tom? And they're just all pissed off. But no, this has been great. Okay, so Angie put her information in there, info at angielopezlaw.com. I'm writing that down. Everybody, I'm so happy you guys are here. Truly, I just love these summits. In fact, I was Angie, one of the people that is signed up to. I'm writing all this while I'm talking. one of the people that signed up is my actual coach, Vanya Clark Butler. She's like, I have to come to this one because I really want to guest today. And of course, Vanya's super busy, so she'll watch the replay. Hi, Vanya, if you're watching the replay. But it's really fun because, you know, we're all so interested in helping each other out. And she says, I hate missing this stuff. And she goes, this is such great content. I mean, we had Karen talking about gender equity in the workforce and how to get along with people of different mindsets. We had Dave Kusa talking about belonging to associations. By the way, Rosemary, I'm supposed to be talking to a woman who's the executive director of the San Francisco Trial Lawyers Association.
Yes.
So I'm actually going to be talking with her later. So yeah, you're right. So
Great.
associations are good. And then we learned
Yes.
about marketing from Sarah yesterday. And then Angie, we're learning such valuable information. You know what? You're right. Nobody talks about this stuff, but it's so important. And then tomorrow we've got a professor from Cal State Monterey Bay who is going to be talking about women and social media and how all that plays out in society. So truly, everybody, I love you so much. I'm so happy you're here. We'll send out the replay soon. Angie, you are amazing. Are there any final comments you want to make before we say goodbye?
The only final comment I'll make is this one. Sometimes you can't eliminate anger from people and you can't eliminate nasty people. But you know what? Even when that happens, don't let that ruin your day. That's all I gotta say.
Love it. Love it. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Okay, guys, love you so much. See you tomorrow.
See you tomorrow.
Bye.
Thank you.